Hello leaders, and welcome back to the Leader Portal and our session overview videos. During this video, we will be discussing Session 5, Family Goals. It has been well established that setting goals and establishing objectives can contribute to life success. The purpose of this session is to help the youth and their families identify life goals and objectives needed in order to reach those goals. Goal setting is important because it can be used to resolve issues between different people, as well as to master a particular skill or reach a certain level of achievement. Before this session, it is important to accumulate play money by either making copies of the money found in your leader manual or by using play money from a game. You will also need to write the goals listed in the family auction bid and make sure that it is either placed in the family's notebooks or have copies available to pass out during session. Lastly, the leaders will need to decide who will be the auctioneer during the auction activity for this session.
Begin this session by going over the homework from last week, which was the family contracts. Go around and ask each family how the contracts went for them. Also, offer any advice to those who may have struggled, and also encourage other families to offer advice. Was there something that was successful for the families who did get the family contracts finished? Was there something that wasn't as effective for them? Also, invite any parents to share success stories in their life of setting a goal and achieving it. This could look like setting a goal in the education realm, the workplace, or in their family life. Also, discuss what makes these contracts beneficial in reaching a person's life goals in the group. The stories that are discussed during this time will most likely include obstacles and adversities that the families had to overcome to reach a certain goal. Note this concept and emphasize that goal setting can be used to resolve problems between people. This will lead into families discussing a problem that they may have had and then talking about a possible resolution to that problem. Ask the families for examples of this that the group can analyze together. The leader can then pass out the family goal setting contract, which they will use to write down the problem, the goals, and the resolution to this problem.
What is a family value and why is it important? During the first activity for this session, the families will be able to compete in a family values auction. Before the auction, ask the families to brainstorm about what values are most important to them. Then, explain to the families what the auction will consist of and some of the items that they will be bidding on. You will not need to completely go through this list, as it will either be placed on a whiteboard, poster, or in a copy. What is a family value and why is it important? During the first activity for this session, the families will be able to compete in a family values auction. Before the auction, ask the families to brainstorm about some of the values that are most important to them. Then, take some time to explain to the families what the auction will consist of and some of the items that they will be bidding on. You will not need to go through this list completely, as you can either have it placed on a whiteboard, poster paper, have it in their family notebooks, or you would have made copies to hand out to them during the session. After the auction, take some time to discuss the activity. Some of the questions that you can ask include: 1. Were any of the families satisfied with the values that they won? 2. Do any of the values that they won represent their family well? 3. What values were most and least important to each family? Then you can go around the circle and ask the families about which value was most important to them. This question encourages the families to access how to spend their time and to make sure that they spend more time building their family values together. For a more complete list of questions to ask during the discussion, please refer to your leader manual.
Activity 2 is the goal-setting group discussion. This should be specific and measurable, following the SMART goal concept. Ask the families what they believe a family goal to be. Then have the families split up around the room so they can discuss exactly what these goals are, and then they can fill out their family contract. Once the families have thoroughly drawn up their contract, ask what they think their goals are and give each member of a group a setting a goal My Contract handout. This will allow each member of the family to fill out their personal goals. This handout will allow individuals to write down a goal that they have in mind, and then they can brainstorm ways to achieve that goal. The leader can then go around and help each individual come up with a goal that fits in the SMART goal framework. Once they have come up with a goal, ask each individual to sign their own contract. Make sure you as the leader have extra copies of these contracts just in case individuals mess up the first time with their goals.
Before the session, read through the recipe for marriage and use this template as a guide for creating your own version for a recipe for a parent. As the families work, Before the session, read through the recipe for a marriage template and use this as a guide for creating your own version of a recipe for a parent. As the families do this activity as a group, read through the recipe for a marriage and use this template as a reference when writing your own version of the recipe for a parent. As the families work on this activity together, you can write down their ingredients and their weights on either a whiteboard or poster paper. Then, discuss the parts of the recipe that will be important for families. Then you can have the families break off into family groups and write recipes of their own. When they're finished, bring the group back together to read their recipes and discuss the ingredients that they chose and the reasons behind. That's sweet and disgusting. Before the session, read through the recipes for a marriage and use this template as a reference when creating your own recipe for a parent. As the families do this activity, you can write down the ingredients and the weights on either a whiteboard or a poster paper. Discuss the parts of the recipe that are important for a family. Then, have the families break off into groups to write recipes of their own. When they're finished, bring the group back together to read their recipes and discuss the reasons behind they chose the ingredients that they did.
End this session by asking the families what their biggest takeaway was and then having them write it down. Mention that next week's topic is education and then go over what the homework is for this coming up week, which is the family meals assignment. This assignment includes each family having a meal together for each day of the coming up week. During this mealtime, families will be required to ask each other questions. For a complete list of these questions, refer back to your leader manual or Dr. Quinn's book.